Hi, my name is Udo Erasmus, and we're going to talk about enzymes. Enzymes. What are enzymes? Enzymes are protein molecules, act like catalysts. What's a catalyst? A catalyst makes things happen that wouldn't happen without it, but is itself not affected by what it makes happen. That's kind of cool, actually. So enzymes are protein catalysts, and there are thousands of them found in the body. They make all the chemical reactions that make the body work are governed by enzymes. So they're inside our cells. In fact, if you got rid of all the enzymes in your body would immediately start to fall apart into the water and the oxygen and the carbon dioxide and the minerals and the other molecules that it was made from, all the basic stuff. So enzymes keep something happen that shouldn't be happening. Like the human body is so complex. And in a way, if you say, you know, well, let me make a human body happy, you couldn't do it. It is so unbelievably complicated. And enzymes do all the work. They're obviously life using the genetic program makes those enzymes out of proteins you ate and digested, out of amino acids. And then those enzymes have all kinds of different functions, very, very specific functions. So every enzyme has a very narrow function, but does that function extremely well. For instance, enzymes can do, like the enzymes that break down foods that we're going to talk about, digestive enzymes. One molecule of a digestive enzyme can do 1 million breakdown reactions per second. 1 million per second breakdown reactions of foods. And what that means is they're extremely efficient. And they're extremely important because you have to have them to break down the foods. If you were to eat raw foods, in raw foods there are enzymes that when you chew up those foods, those enzymes are released and they start to break down the food before you even swallow it. When you swallow the food, it stays in your upper stomach for about an hour before it goes into the stomach acid and the acid bath and all of the things that happen there. And in that 1 hour, if you're doing 1 million reactions a second, in that hour you got 60 times 60 times 1 million, so you're talking about 3,600 million, so that's like 3 billion, and you have maybe 100,000 molecules. So you get an enormous number of food molecules are broken down in that 1 hour. And in fact, it's been measured that by the time the food gets into your stomach acid bath, about 60% of the digestion is already done if the foods are raw. So the enzymes present in raw foods can do 10 to 90% of the digestion of that food for you. And if you look at nature, how it was in nature, every creature that's ever lived on the planet has eaten its food, not every creature, but most creatures in nature eat their food fresh, whole, raw, and organic. So those foods always have enzymes in them that do part of the digestion. And our digestive system would actually be better called a cleanup system. And its job then is, if 10 to 90% of the digestion is done by the enzymes in the foods themselves, then our digestive system just makes sure that the rest of it also gets done. And it does that by making enzymes in saliva, making enzymes in the stomach, making enzymes from the pancreas, and then making enzymes in cells that line the digestive tract. And those enzymes break down proteins. They're called proteases when they break down proteins. Amylases, which break down starch, and lipases that break down fats. And then there's lactase that breaks down lactose sugar. And there are raffinose sugar, which is a 3-sugar combination that the body can't break down. And they're the sugars that give you gas when you eat broccoli and onions and things like that. I call them the fart sugars. And if you can get alpha-galactosidase, that will break down those sugars and deal with that. And then there are cellulases that break down cellulose. And you can go through a list of molecules, and there's an enzyme to break down any one of these natural molecules that you find in foods. So an enormous amount of work is done by the ones the body makes. Those are the cleanup enzymes. You also get enzymes in probiotics. Probiotics make some enzymes because they feed off what's in your digestive tract. And you can get microbes in general. What they do is if there's protein in the environment, they will secrete protease into the environment, break down the protein, suck up the amino acids that they need to build their own bodies. And if they have starch in their environment, they will make amylase and break down the starch and then suck up the sugar molecules. And if there's fat in the environment, then they will make lipase and then digest the fat and suck up the fatty acids. And that's how creatures get their nutrients. Now, our digestive system is actually outside of our body. The inside of our digestive tract is outside of our body. Sounds funny, but it's just a hole through our middle, and then we throw stuff in there, and then the body puts acid in there and enzymes in there, mixes it all up, breaks everything down, absorbs everything it needs from the foods we eat, and anything that it doesn't need just stays in the digestive tract and then goes through, ends up in your toilet. That's how that system works. But that happens outside the body because if you eat protein from some other creature, like a chicken, and the chicken protein was injected into your body, then you would get a reaction to it, and the second time you did that, you'd get an anaphylactic shock, and that would kill you. So it's very important that the proteins we get when we eat other creatures, that they're broken down completely so that none of these proteins end up in our body undigested, because that's what triggers the immune reaction. Foreign protein and huge reactions can happen from that. Where do digestive enzymes come from? Well, actually, we can get them from animals. Usually it's pancreas, pork pancreas. And the downside of those is I call them the quick and dirty ones. They're a waste product from the slaughter industry, but they're also not pure enzymes. They are actually pancreas tissue. They are inactivated, they're destroyed in the stomach, so they don't work very well for very long. And people can get allergic reactions to them. And those used to be, when I was a kid, that's usually where enzymes came from. The second place is you can get enzymes from plants. And unripe papaya and pineapple have protease enzymes. They have at least 10, more than 10 protease enzymes. And that's, by the way, why if you eat pineapple when it's raw, not when it's cooked, because then you destroy the enzymes. But when you eat pineapple raw and you eat a lot of it, and sometimes it tastes so good, so people just keep eating it, and after a while your tongue begins to tingle, that's because the protease enzymes in the pineapple are digesting your tongue. Because the enzymes don't care what they digest just digest what they get. And so that's why people say don't eat too much of it. On the other hand, if you take raw pineapple with protein foods, then the pineapple helps to break down the protein food. And bromelain, the protease enzymes from pineapple are very, very popular, and a lot of research has been done on them, and a lot of claims can be made for what those enzymes can do in terms of improving your digestion. And then the third place where you can get enzymes is you get microbes to make them. Microbes are very versatile. So if you want to make protease, you feed them protein. If you want to make amylase, you feed them starch. If you want to make lipase, you feed them fats. And they will then make those enzymes. And those enzymes, they will secrete outside of their body, because their digestion needs to take place outside their body too. And what you can then do is you separate the enzymes from the cells of the creatures that make them. And that way you get pure enzymes, but not the creature. And you don't want the creature because some of these are bacteria, some of them are funguses. You don't want the fungus, but you want the enzymes that it can make. So we work mostly with the pineapple, the papaya, and the microbial enzymes. They have a much wider range of pH that they work in. They are not inactivated in the stomach the way pancreatin is. And of course, when you put them in food, they will help to digest the food in the upper part of the stomach, and you get even more digestion, and you need even less enzymes for your body to make in order to clean up, in order to complete your digestion. But the question is, why do we need enzymes in the first place? And the reason is that when you cook foods or you pasteurize foods, you destroy all the enzymes that were present in the raw food. And that means then that your body has to do more work than it was intended to have to do, because by nature the standard was eating raw foods. And when you have to make more enzymes in your body, then that puts a load on your digestive system, on your enzyme making cells. And when they're unable to keep up with it, then your immune system has to get involved. And then you tie up immune system in digestion, and then the immune system is not as capable of doing the other jobs it's supposed to do in the body, like digest viruses, digest bacteria, digest inflammatory proteins, digest autoimmune proteins. And when that happens, then you can get quite a wide range of problems that come from having cooked your food, or not having enough enzymes in your food, or and not getting your digestion properly done, and involving your immune system. So what do? If you eat cooked foods, you should replace the enzymes that were destroyed when the foods were cooked. So the way we make enzymes is we emphasize the proteases. And the reason for that is the more proteases they have, there's many different kinds, the more different kinds you have, and the more of them you have, the more you make sure that proteins are completely digested, because undigested or poorly or partially digested proteins cause most of the digestive problems that involve the immune system and that involve the entire digestive system. So that's the most important set of enzymes. Proteases to digest, to make sure that protein digestion is complete. And you only get amino acids that you absorb, and then you make your own proteins with them, according to your genetic program. Lipase is important for digestion of fats, but fat digestion is pretty good in most people. People with celiac disease sometimes have a problem with fat digestion, and people with cystic fibrosis have a problem with fat digestion. So it helps to add some lipase to them. And again, it takes a load off your digestive system, so your digestive system lasts longer if you provide the enzymes from outside. Third one, the amylases, I like to keep them low, because I don't want to speed up starch absorption, because the faster starch gets turned into sugar, and the faster the sugar gets absorbed, the more blood sugar problems you'll have, with blood sugar swings and insulin swings and mood swings and fat production and cravings. So I like to keep them short. But we need some amylase in enzyme formulas, because there are proteins in foods that have starch strings on them. And the proteases can't digest those until the starch strings come off. So we use amylase to clip those starch strings. So you always need a little bit of amylase. We never put in very much, because that's all we want to do with them. And we want to slow down carbohydrate digestion. What is the best way to take enzymes? Well, there's three ways. One is you can swallow capsules. And some people do that. They eat some food, swallow a capsule, eat some food, swallow a capsule, however many they take. That's not the best way to do it, simply because you want the enzymes mixed in the food, spread out through the food as widely as possible, because you want them everywhere in the food, like it would have been when the food was raw. So the way you get to that is you open the capsule into food that is cool enough to eat. If it's really hot, you'll destroy the enzymes. If it's cool enough to eat, they will be alive. So you mix them in the food, they don't change the taste, they start the digestion even before you eat the food. And that's a very good way to use digestive enzymes. How much should you use? Whatever, you have to let your gut tell you, whatever does the job. If you have gas and bloating and food sensitivities and food allergies, you need to take enzymes. in my opinion. And if you have autoimmune diseases, enzymes can be helpful, and you take whatever you need to take to do the job. If you take too much enzymes, they can irritate, like if you have an ulcer, for instance, you take enzymes on an empty stomach, they will irritate your ulcer. So you want to make sure that you drink enough water, get enough mucilage fiber, have enough probiotics starting from the top, so that your stomach lining is protected and the enzymes don't digest the wound in your stomach. So you have to pay attention to that. The other ways, I use enzymes for colds, because when you have a cold, the reason you get the cold and it takes 7 to 9 days to fix it is because you get a virus in, the virus goes into the cell. In the cell, it commandeers the cell machinery, makes 200, 300 copies of itself, blows up the cell, and now you got 200, 300, each looking for a cell to go into. And that happens so fast that it overwhelms your immune system. So then it has to figure out, okay, what is this? What kind of proteins are these? Then it has to make antibodies against it. Then it has to reproduce the immune cells that go after them with the antibodies. And that takes 7 to 9 days. And then in the end, it cleans it up. So what I do is I take enzymes when I start getting a cold, and the more snot-nosed it is, the better I can use them. And I will literally chew them up in my mouth and swish them around in my mouth, because I want them to, the proteases, to take the protein coat off as many viruses as possible, because when the protein coat comes off a virus, it cannot get into the cell. And then I can bring that down in a day or two, down to the level that the immune system can do the cleanup. So I'm actually helping my immune system and saving my immune system, either by eating raw foods, and there's actually some pretty good evidence that people who only eat raw foods rarely get colds, very rarely gets cold, because they never overload their digestive system, and therefore never overwork their immune system and weaken it, from being able to do its anti-infection job. When should you take enzymes? Well, some people say before meals or between meals to help immune function. And there's some evidence that is helpful. You can take them in the food, that's the way I recommend. But if you go somewhere and you didn't take them and you overate because the food was so good and your stomach hurts, if you take 2 or 3 capsules of enzymes and just kind of drop them on top of the food that you ate, very quickly that stomach ache goes away, because they're also effective when you take them at the end of a meal. So you can take them anytime. The best way is just to mix them in the food so they're all through the food, so that they do their best job. So if you have a Clostridium difficile infection, actually, or E. coli or whatever, Salmonella, any of those infections, the single most important thing to do is to take probiotics to work against them, because probiotics are very good at protecting you from those kinds of infections. It also helps to take digestive enzymes. They actually make it better, because they will digest those dead creatures. And they will also sometimes take the proteins off, not just off viruses, but also the bacterial proteins that are on the surface of those bacteria. And that weakens the bacteria. So taking enzymes when you have infections is actually a good idea. They also take a load off your digestion, which takes a load off your immune system, which then makes the immune system more competent in its power to go after those invading microorganisms. Is there contraindications for taking enzymes? The only time I would not take enzymes is if I had an active ulcer, or a duodenal ulcer, or irritable bowel, Crohn's, ileitis, colitis, those kind of problems, because there your digestive system, the inside of it is raw and it's not protected very well, and enzymes, the protease enzymes, will irritate those conditions. So what I would say is, in those conditions, you want to make sure that you go towards a plant-based diet. If you have to cook it a lot, it's better to do that than not to eat the plants. And then you take mucilage fiber, like you can boil flax and take the fiber from that, the slimy stuff. It's called mucilage fiber. You take that, and that helps to soothe the digestive tract. You take probiotics, which fight the bacteria that irritate your digestive tract. H. pylori would be in the stomach, and there's a number of other ones in the small intestine and large intestine. So you would want to make sure that that's happening, and when that's happening, the healing takes. You want to take essential fatty acids because they speed up the healing, and then you would take the enzymes with your food after all of that was done, because you want the inside of your digestive tract to be healed before you put the enzymes in. Then we have a second one, and that's called daily maintenance. That one is more for vegans, doesn't have any lactase in it, and also for people who are on high protein, high fat diets like the Atkins diet or paleo diet, which tend to be high protein, high fat.